Here we have three CEOs of arguably the top brands right now in technology and enterprise tech. We have Nick Mehta from Gainsight, the true category king of customer success.
Thank you, Andy.
Yes, have a round of applause for Nick. Come on. All right.
Wow.
All right. We've got Eric Yuan, who is with Zoom, who is disrupting web and video conferencing again.
Yeah.
Yes. And of course, Dheeraj Pandey, who is obviously everybody's heard about Nutanix and the great IPO and the incredible work that Nutanix has done in sort of reimagining the enterprise cloud. Lovely to have you. Thank you for joining us. Honored, absolutely honored. Okay, so let's start by lightening things up a little bit. So let's start with you, Nick, and I'd like to go around for the three of you. And if you had free time, away from family and work, what passion would you pursue and why?
I've got two answers to that, Andy. In my heart, it would be I'd be a Pittsburgh Steeler football player. Except I'm a huge Steeler fan. Except I realize I'm 5'9", slow, and not talented in any way whatsoever. So, as a backup to that, if I wasn't in technology, actually I'm really into, strangely enough, physics and like quantum mechanics and crazy stuff like that. So I'd be out discovering how reality works in an alternate life. Yeah.
In an alternate reality.
In an alternate reality, in many worlds. Yeah.
Physics and the Pittsburgh Steelers.
That's those two things.
See you in that
uniform, exactly.
And with a physics book.
Exactly.
That's a good visual. All right, Eric, how about you?
So I'd like to play soccer, but I cannot do that anymore. So last November when I played soccer, my Achilles tendon was ruptured. So, but anyway, I became a sort of professional Uber driver to drive my son to play basketball now.
All right.
It's a good job.
Yeah.
Very good. And that's because your son's a big basketball.
It's like playing basketball.
He's
But it
playing a lot of
was,
hoops.
yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's awesome. Dheeraj?
Yeah, for me, I'm a big history buff. So I read a lot in history. I consume history through Quora and History Vault and History Channel, and also a ton of old Wall Street Journal articles, like 15, 20 years old articles and such. But yeah, while the network is slow, I'm going to just log on to my Clari app and.
I did that too.
That's awesome.
By the way, just I mean, my first tab in my Chrome is a Clari tab actually. And,
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, as someone who's started the company from scratch, it means a lot to hear that. I have another great story. You're hoping you're building the right products and that they're adding value for people. And I was fortunate enough to have Eric have a lunch with Eric, and he had his Achilles heel was ruptured, so he's on his little wheelie thing, and I'm sitting there and I'm waiting for him, and he comes rolling around, and he has Clari on his phone on, just rolling around and going, "I love this thing." So anyway, to the engineers and the product people, good job, but we have a lot of work to do. So let's start with, I think what would be interesting is we'll start with you, Nick. Let's go around here, the panel here, and talk about sort of the style of your business, so sort of the mix of revenue and types of transactions, if you could characterize the stage of growth that you're in, and then your view of sales operations and the role it's playing in the company at this current stage would be great.
Sure. Yeah. So we're growth stage company, private. We sell mid to large size customers, so it's not a high volume business, much more of a high touch sale. Mostly field sales, so large deals. Most of our contracts are 6 or 7 figure ACV per year, I would say we are just getting sophisticated about ops now, because the early deals in a high-touch, complex business are kind of everyone's sort of inventing it as you go. I hired my head of revenue ops, Ryan Tobin, about 9 months ago. That was about 3 years too late, by the way. I should have hired somebody much, much earlier. So everyone in this room does good work, and I really value the profession a lot more now that I have it. And we're just starting to get sophisticated about it, but we're starting to see a lot of value in putting more process into place. In fact, I have a chief revenue officer starting next week to kind of standardize our go-to-market model.
Awesome. Eric?
Yeah. So, over the past several years, we grew the business very rapidly. So we already have almost, 600,000 business customers. and also over 500 employees. 1/3 of them are sales. And however, every day I have so many incoming leads because we have a free, freemium product. We also has an SMB customer, a lot of enterprise customer. I still remember actually we did, build our sales ops team very early on. That's the reason why probably even if we have 600,000 business customers, I did not see any scalability issue. The process there and tools there. However, as kind of 18 months ago, and the problem was, every morning when I woke up, I always call our, head of sales, Greg Holmes, and try to check the pipeline, how healthy, are you sure it's 30% or 70% for each segment? Every morning I spend so much time. And when I call him, guess what? He also is sometimes, whenever I had questions, he's going to call his sales op managers, or maybe call the sales manager. We spend almost 1 hour every morning, and just the data is not accurate. I just a little bit frustrated at that time. At that time, I realized we needed something. That's why we talked with your team. After that, every morning, I just spend like 15 minutes. That's it on Clari. And the team, I think, we just closed our Q1, and look at our Clari data. It's very, very accurate. The forecast is amazing. I can tell you my life is much better now. So.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Dheeraj.
Yeah. So for us, we are a growth company. We have been selling for about 24 quarters now. So it's going to be probably 6 years, and not exactly 24, 22 quarters. So it'll be 6 years in October, November of this year, and we are close to $1 billion of bookings run rate. Revenue lags by 30% or so. And we don't have too many customers. We're about 5,000-6,000 customers. Still a relatively young company because we're still not a great company. We're a good company trying to be a great company. It's going to take another 5 years to get there. And we have a pretty complex go-to-market strategy. There's obviously the 2-tier distribution with an appliance model, and we have things that we sell as software to our OEM partners like Dell and Lenovo, and we do sell software on top of Cisco hardware, and we just announced HP yesterday. And then we also do ELAs of software for this operating system that we sell that displaces all of VMware and EMC NetApp and all the stuff in the middle. So it's a relatively complex go-to-market, and I think we have if you look at the OEM stuff, it's a $100K deal, but we have large ELAs of $7-8 million as well, so, and everything in the middle. So the challenge for us is now at scale, how do you segment even further and segment even further? And every time you thought that you have segmented enough, you segment one more time, so that you understand where to focus and prioritize.
And can I ask, how do you think about sales operations? Obviously, it's evolved, right, over time as you've grown so quickly. And how it's supported you, and how do you think about sales operations going forward? Yeah,
by the way, we have my colleagues here, and Aditya is sitting right here, and Kenton is there. So thanks again, folks, for really carrying the burden of responsibility of the business here. It's really 2 different teams. There's a transactional team, there's an analytical team, and there's a lot of data crunching, understanding historicals from the last 2 years, and trying to figure out how do you really predict and forecast this current quarter? And then there is a lot of deal desk and quoting and discounting, all the stuff that actually happens for each transaction. So we definitely want to actually have a view that's comprehensive, that not just from the point of view of the opportunity, but what's happening from the transactional point of view itself in terms of looking at margin pressure and discounting and behavior at a regional level and things like that. So for me, I think the team itself is the lifeline of the company, because without them, I think FP&A can't work, and without these 2 teams, we can't forecast and predict as a public company.
And let's switch gears a little bit. One of the things that I'm working with on my board is a go-to-market scorecard, or a set of really simple KPIs. What are the 5 or top KPIs that you think about when you wake up in the morning, or when you're putting the kids to bed? What do you want to see? Or right after a quarter, you want to look at same time last quarter, same time last year. What are the simple metrics that you care about most?
Yeah, I think it's probably pretty similar for a lot of the businesses where there's a leading kind of pipeline indicator. We call it sales accepted leads, which is the beginning of the pipeline. Yep. I would say that what I'm looking for next out of that pipeline indicator is something that leads to that. So that and also measure quality of that, which I think Clari's helping us with. So there's sort of some new pipeline indicator, obviously new ARR, new bookings. We look at that in upsell and versus new logo. And then of course we look at retention. It's sort of the core to what we do. And we look at both gross and net retention. And then we look at some leading indicators on future success like adoption, NPS.
Okay. How about you, Eric?
Very similar to what Nick mentioned. So we look at this quarter, the pipeline, and also next quarter, and also total MMR exit for this month and this quarter, and that's pretty much, yeah. It's probably not 5, just 1, Okay, everything around the MMR. So.
Okay.
I look at kind of a philosophical view of KPIs of delight and there's waste. These are the only 2 things that matter in a company. So what are the things that are delighting your employees, your customers, your channel partners? And then there's waste. So you put a few things in the waste basket, you put a few things in the delight basket. And as things improve, like you look at sales productivity, it could be delightful if it's awesome. If it's not very good, it's a waste. And you look at net promoter score, whether it's employee net promoter score or customer net promoter score, you again put them in if it's delightful or not. Obviously, on a quarter-to-quarter basis, there's pipeline and there's pipeline yield, and there is obviously, and then we segment it again, looking at G5K versus the rest and so on. I think a lot of it is like, understanding whether the models that we have are right, because all the KPIs that we're building have to feed back into the models readjust because, even starting from what does a global 2000 productivity curve look like versus a global 5,000 productivity curve look like and stuff like that.
One thing I'll add on that is we're focused on kind of larger customers, but I think Nutanix is as well. And we started doing metrics around top account penetration, where you take all those metrics and then just apply them to our top account universe. And so we'll actually build this heat map. For us, it's like the top 100, like we sell a lot into tech as one of our big verticals. So top 100 tech companies and a heat map of literally how many people are in our database from a marketing perspective, how many have engaged with marketing, how many have come to an event, which ones are customers, how much are they spending, how much greenfield, and that's a dashboard we started using a lot.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
And also I think the one thing that again going back to waste, and if you have existing accounts and if they're not buying enough, then it's waste because you spend all this time getting this first deal and you can't get more out of them. That's wasteful because customer acquisition cost is actually quite high. So again, going into repeat business and looking at segmenting that repeat segment, like top 25, top 100, looking at global 2000, looking at the rest, So that whole population and how much we're going and selling within is probably another big one for us.
Switching subjects, can we talk about lessons learned and whether, as you think about how you've scaled companies, Nick, you've done this now multiple times, either at your previous venture or now with Gainsight. What are the lessons learned as you think about scaling sales and how sales ops, people in the audience can learn from some of those lessons?
Yeah, it's funny because I thought I learned this lesson last company. I think I'm relearning it this company. So next company, I'm going to be really good at it, which is predictability is the most important thing, I think, in scaling long term. And it's not, you want to grow as fast as you can, you want to do as much as you can, but if you run a predictable business, you can run a great business. And so obviously predictability has a lot of different forms to it, predictable software delivery, predictable customer success, but a big part of it is predictable sales and really instrumenting the sales process. And I feel like I should have learned this last time. I'm learning it this time. I'm going to apply it next time. And what that means practically is definitely investing in this area early on, and really thinking of it like a product that we instrument our product very heavily. We instrument our customer lifecycle very heavily. We need to instrument our sales process very heavily as well. And we have a high touch business with large deals, so we sort of almost didn't do it because we felt like, every deal is a little different every time. But I think in hindsight, I should have instrumented it earlier. Okay. So it's a lesson I'm learning now, perhaps not one I've learned yet. So yeah,
we can help you with that.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Yeah,
Eric.
So lesson I learned is I realized if you can make our sales team happy, everything else will be easier. So, and I mean their productivity be up, and also that's why from a management team side, what we do is make sure to have a right comp plan, sales territory, every quarter, every month we got to adjust that, right? And before I left Cisco, and I managed an engineering team. I know that if engineer are very happy, guess what? The product quality is great. Engineer not happy is very buggy. And the same thing is true to our sales team. We do all we can to make sure our sales team is happy because that's our company culture to deliver happiness, make sure our employee happy. We do everything as long as our sales team is happy. Like give them the right tools like Clari or any other tools. If they are happy, I think let them deal with our customers every time we can close the deal. So.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think for us, it's like you're running multiple businesses in one business is kind of the lesson. If you think of $5+ million deals and $1 to $5 million deals and less than $1 million deals, the less than $1 million is you can make it very mechanized and predictable, and it's because you have high volume of data that's coming in that you don't have to worry about outliers coming in, doing things to you. And then you look at the 1 to 5 million, there's probably half machine, half humans need to come in, collaborate, integrate, figure it out. And then the 5+ million is all about people, and it's about relationships, and there's so much stuff that goes on that machines can't predict because there's so few of them that you actually cannot have enough data to go and forecast things and so on. And as you become an enterprise-heavy company, you actually get into these top two a lot. And which is why I think earlier you had this conundrum as to whether you should actually apply any machines to it this time or not.
Totally, yeah, that's right.
And I think there's a lot in the middle, which is 1 to 5 million, that actually goes through. You need to still apply. I mean, think of Clari's email vetting process. Imagine if in the 1 to 5 million you said, look, the emails to procurement is different from emails to an economic buyer versus emails to a technical buyer. Now we are adding meaning to the emails. It's not just, you're sending emails to some domain name,
right.
But instead, how can we actually get to really go deeper to understand that, look, if it's not gone in procurement and you're saying it's here, and it's an enterprise account, and it's like only 4 weeks left, and it's not an existing customer where you've already greased the wheels with procurement, it's not going to work. So there's a lot of details, when this is when I heard a lot of things about data and things like that. But data itself is like nuanced in every segment, actually.
Yeah. And then how do you? There's a lot of data out there, right? Everyone's talking about it. I mean, you've got some of the best in the audience, and Aditya, I'll call out. How do you distill down the data that you want to see? There's a lot of different tools. There's Clari. There's various other technologies that are coming on the market. How do you go through a process in terms of thinking about your technology spend, right? Because people in the audience that are in sales ops, right, they're going to look at, okay, the next 12 months, let's say we're in our budgeting cycle, they now need to think about, okay, what bet are they going to make? How do you guys think about that in terms of your technology stack for, let's say, your go-to-market systems?
Yeah, it's funny. I think every company probably has this wake-up moment where you have some finance person who comes in and says, wow, we have like X hundred employees and X hundred applications that we've bought. And we had that a few weeks ago where a new CFO was like, we bought so many different overlapping things. So I think it is a real challenge if you're somebody in a line of business role like sales ops, trying to go to your CEO and CFO and say, I need a new thing. I think, to me, one of the big things we're trying to do is build an overall vision of the stack and try to find areas where we can say, okay, this vendor, even if they don't do everything today, over the next 12, 18 months, they're going to be able to do more and more of it and make a bet there. So kind of bet on a smaller number of vendors with bigger roadmaps, that kind of thing.
Okay. Super helpful. Eric, your thoughts?
Yeah, so we probably have around 50, different SaaS applications for across the marketing, sales, engineering, all kinds of tools. So normally every quarter we review those tools, right? So one thing we spend time is look at the usage for every tool. We understand, do we really use that or not, right? That's the first question. The second one, when we use that tools, how do our team like it, right? It's kind of, if they really do not like the usability or the experience is not good, we really want to find out another alternative workaround. And also the third thing is really ask ourselves, does these tools help our productivity or not? That's overall, if we pass all those three questions, we are going to renew. Otherwise, we are going to find out another alternative workaround.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great way of doing it. Dheeraj, your thoughts?
Again, I think for us, at least personally, I feel like we need to have 3 cell towers because you have to triangulate. There's no one model that will actually say, here is the cell. You need 3 cell towers to figure out where is the real cell, right? So I think to figure out what triangulation means with 3 different models to really locate the cell phone is probably what's required in forecasting as well. You know, so Aditya has personal forecast that looks a year back, and so we're like, look, we have cyclicality, we have seasonality, so you have to look further back to understand patterns and correlations and anomalies, because the current data that you have, I mean, we start our quarter and it keeps looking different as we go, because there's a lot of in-quarter stuff that you talked about your own business, a lot of in-quarter pipeline that comes in. So one of the things that we have to really get better at is like starting on the first day, can we just say that what it'll look like by the 90th day or something like that, right? And it requires triangulation. And hopefully if you can bring a triangulated model, then all of a sudden I don't have to go to any other ecosystem outside. We currently use Aviso, we use Aditya's models, and in all of this we're also saying, look, we have to look at large deals differently, because now these models can actually work on these political deals and things which belong in the space of human interaction and in all this stuff and so on. So I think today we actually use multiple tools, and ideally if you can think of 3 ways to look at the thing, then I don't have to look at multiple tools actually.
That's good. I've got 2 more questions and then we'll open it up to the audience, but these specifically around the sales ops vocation in your company. As you think about what you want to get out of your sales ops group to make a bigger impact, what are you looking for?
So I'll throw one, I mean, there's so much there, and obviously you want data and you want insights, but just as one new idea, I want a sales ops group that the reps love. So in other words, you don't want sales ops as a process gate and the reps over here and let's say the head of sales or CRO or CEO in the middle. You want sales ops aligning to the reps, because obviously ops without rep buy-in and without a tool buy-in in your world is not useful, right? So really getting things that reps adopt, whether it's processes, whether technology, anything else.
And that's not just a technology thing, it's also the people.
It's a people,
right?
Exactly.
Ricky was saying that, sales ops should not be sales obstacles.
Yeah.
Sales ops.
That's good.
Opportunity.
Right. And how does, and a lot of that is about the people and how they think about the job is to accelerate the salesperson's ability to make a bunch of money.
Totally.
Effectively.
Yep.
Eric?
Yeah, so first thing, we got to make sure our sales ops always look at how to deliver happiness to our sales team. Do they really care about our sales team or not? In terms of like, I had new tools, I have a new idea to improve our productivity, and also talk with the sales ops. Do they really care about our sales team or not? This is one. The 2 is around every quarter look at, in terms of productivity. We have a lot of new ideas. We need to make sure sales ops always, very flexible, very open, try to improve their process as well. So,
how do you do that though? I mean, I guess you've said this twice, which is sales happiness, right? And what are how many reps do we have?
We have around 130.
130 reps. How do you measure the happiness of the sales team?
It's first of all, we look at we got to look at every quarter, look at the data, right? And also, every rep, what's the percentage of those reps reach the quota, right?
Yeah.
And also every day we talk with those reps, kind of like based on their talk with the customer, we receive feedback from a customer. Quite often, even if you do not close the deal and the customer send out feedback, I really enjoy working together with you and with John, with other guys. Every day we receive all kinds of feedback. Because normally, if the sales team, sales rep, they are not happy, guess what? For sure, their experience, because we use Zoom to sell Zoom. If they're not happy, you know that, right? Quite often joining the meeting, wow, the rep not happy, the customer say, wow, what's going on? That's why I say, every day, we do not have a single, I would say, thing to measure that. However, we look at every factors, to measure our team's happiness. Sales ops, they play a key role. Because every time, in terms of tools or process, or all the kind of like the combo plan and so on and so forth, all goes through our sales ops. Right? This is very important between me and our sales team. Most of the time, I talk with our sales ops because we have so many sales reps, we cannot spend the time. So.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I think I don't know how many people in the audience have thought, okay, what is the happiness matrix? What are the dimensions that make up happiness? It's one thing for a rep to be happy because they're making money. It's another thing to know that right? They have the right territory, they've got the right amount of leads, they have the right marketing support, and to be able to gauge that across a number of reps. How do you do that at Nutanix? How do you gauge sales team happiness?
Well, so there are multiple ways we collect data. Obviously, one of them is they should be in the money. That's the most important thing for them.
Course.
So whether they're actually attaining their quotas or not is an important piece. When you assign them quotas, the why should be clear. Like why? Why should I get this kind of a quota? Is an important part of this, and that happens to be a little bit of a science, a little bit of an art, because obviously the productivity models dictate a lot of this stuff. But then we have to have normal HR tools like Office Vibe, and people use different things, and it empowers them to think anonymously and feedback anonymously. The feedback goes 5 levels up because typically sales is extremely army-like. It's like hierarchical, and you're not allowed to talk about your manager, and so on, because people always looked at sales as coin-operated robots, and it's changing rapidly. In this new world where there's human-mediated sales, and there's what e-commerce and enterprise software is coming together with credit card transactions and so on. So I think it's changing the way people look at salespeople. It's like they're humans first, and they're nice people, and then finally they want to win. That's the way you have a positive way of looking at it. But the one thing that I think, and we have to do a better job of this, I'm sure every company actually does this, is like, how do you connect sales enablement to their daily behavior? And obviously there's a whole process of value creation and value protection. Like, how do you protect value of whatever the engineers have actually built in the marketplace, where a lot of it is about, well, there's good enough stuff out there, so why are you actually sort of going with this discount versus that, and margins and this and that. So I think how enablement through the quoting process, through what you see in the opportunities eventually, how do you connect all this stuff so that you're not just spending millions on enablement without understanding true analytics behind it, is probably another, because it's easy to throw money at enablement, and sales teams throw a lot in enablement. So if you can measure that and say, look, I'm going to give you a better discounting because I saw you do a really good job of your tests and your all that stuff, which is about, you need to be scared of the fact that you're failing an enablement test or something.
Part of this making your reps happy and feel successful is getting away from this idea that they're coin operated. It's what you just said. I think it's such a ridiculous thing, and it's very much not. All the sales professionals I work with, they want to be successful. They want their customers to be successful. They want to learn. They want to grow. And I think that's a very outdated mindset. So don't use that phrase.
I think Nick is right on, because very likely we are going to, in the next quarter, maybe later this year, we are going to change our sales ops teams, rename them to sales happiness team. So,
oh, wow. That's awesome. Wow.
It's actually,
that's cool. Exactly what I'm doing.
You chuckle, you laugh, but it's not bad. I mean, it's actually a really interesting idea, right? I mean, and let's talk about cultural shift, right? We care about culture deeply at Clari. And what's interesting is Jeff Williams at the last session was talking about sales culture. Can you describe your sales culture, Dheeraj? Let's start with you. Sadish is amazing. How would you describe the culture that he's created at Nutanix, and how does sales ops play a role in that?
Both of us, and in the company, we try to celebrate the word authenticity. So it's a very authentic team, and I think we're trying to understand more about what that means, because it's a pretty profound word, actually, authenticity. Obviously, it's honest relationships, celebrating vulnerability. Like, what does it mean to be vulnerable when you're predicting something and forecasting something, and being okay with the fact that it's a vulnerable deal, it's a vulnerable conversation, things like that. So I think we are trying to really embrace the word vulnerability, authenticity in general across the board. What is sales ops role? I think you think about Ricky, he has to play this benevolent dictator role. Everybody leaders are supposed to be, successful leaders are benevolent dictators, actually. So there's a side of them that basically wants consistency, the side of them that actually coaches and mentors. And I think the whole team actually does that, including Aditya as well. He's come, he's done all of this at scale at VMware, and now is here, and trying to apply. And again, we're changing the company one more time as we go more into software and large stuff and so on. How do you go and train all these people to go sell all this stuff? So I think, to me, if the sales ops team can be a benevolent dictatorship of a team, it helps create the happiness that is so elusive, in overall large organizations.
Great, authenticity, it's great. Eric.
Yeah, so in terms of our sales culture, really just one word: care. So we really don't our sales team every day just to talk about the quota, kind of where are you now? I would say it's kind of just the outcome. If every day you talk about that, I think you may not get it. It's just focus on the process. We really want our sales team, everybody, really care about the community. Over the weekend, you got to spend time, contribute back. Right? You got to care about the company, even if something may not be related to the sales team. You need to raise your hand. This is our company. And also got to care about the customer, really care about the customer. Even sometimes customers say, I'm not going to buy a solution next 2 quarters. I still want them to engage with customer, establish the trust. And also they need to care about their teammates, right? Send the feedback to engineers and send the feedback to marketing team proactively, right? Rather than reactive. And finally, also want them to care about themselves. I really want to make sure every sales rep, even if they do not reach the quota, as long as they can improve themselves, right, to next level, as long as they are happy, we still like them. Even like the 50% quota, it's okay. Because we do not maximize revenue. As long as we focus on care, make sure our sales team happy, I think eventually we'll get it. So that's kind of
I think one of the tools that we used from day one, like 4 years ago, 5 years ago, was to make the win alerts go to everybody in the company. And obviously about 18 months ago, we had to change it such that we obfuscate the amount because it's now ranges. Otherwise, people can calculate what the quarter is going to look like. So we can talk about ranges now, like less than 100 to $500,000 above and so on. But salespeople are storytellers too. So in the win alerts, they actually talk about the saga of a deal. And the highs and lows of life and the trials and tribulations of negotiation. And it gives them a great podium to go and talk about their lives and who helped. And the way they thank everybody, and they thank support. One of the things that we've done such a good job of in the company is we celebrate customer service. Unbelievable. The way the win alerts talk about support guys and all that stuff, which is the reason why our net promoter score is 92 actually. It's above 90 consistently.
That's awesome.
It's unbelievable.
So I think just that idea of a win alert that the sales ops team can actually open up and then get in the habit of talking about it. People, engineers read all this stuff. So the back office and the front office is together in one action.
Awesome. That's awesome. Nick, how about you?
Yeah, we try to align our sales culture to our company culture, and kind of obviously one of the big things at Gainsight is we're all about customer success. So making sure, tied very much to what Dheeraj said, that the salesperson can convey that focus on success that they're going to see later on in the cycle, and we really try to do that in the way they get incented and things like that. We also have a value called childlike joy, which means bring the kid in you to work every day. So we've been known to make music videos for customers, send stuffed animals, write books, so a lot of creativity. Do karaoke with customers, yeah. So try to bring actually just the culture and the company out to our customers in the sales process and have that be authentic. So
that's cool. All right, last question, and this was posed to me from someone in the audience, and I just didn't want to forget it. We want to talk about the ascendance of the sales ops profession. And one question that came at me was, how does a sales ops person, what's the career path to COO? What would be your advice that if someone wanted that COO role, they're in VP sales ops, they could have come out of IT, out of finance, out of sales and carried a bag. What are your thoughts? Eric, let's start with you. What advice would you give them?
First of all, I never wanted to have a COO role in my company.
So that's it.
Yeah, I can share with you maybe why, but anyways, back to the sales op. I would say, as long as they can improve, grow themselves to next level, right? Even they stay with the sales op, that's okay. I would say, don't think about in 2 years, 3 years, I got to be next level. I would say that's not realistic. It also may not be the right thing to do. Yeah. You got to think about, does this company help you go to next level now? Even you same person, but you feel like you're better, right? That's okay. No need to always think about got promoted to to some manager or director level. That's kind of our philosophy. And also we also highly recommend them, hey, not only focus on sales team, you can join marketing team. And sometimes you can become a product manager. Right? It's kind of gives them multiple roles that, they can look at.
Okay. Great. Nick, your thoughts?
Yeah, it's not theoretical. My VP of revenue, we call it revenue operations, Ryan Tobin, he and I were talking about, what would a career path to COO look like?
Yeah.
So perfect. The two things I said, I think in general, if somebody's going from the role, number one is to be able to look at the bigger picture of the business and figure out what the bigger picture goals are and how what you're doing connects to that. I think that's good advice for any role, right?
Yeah.
But very specifically in this role, I think take stuff off the CEO's plate. So if you see something that's bouncing back and forth, and I think this is good advice for anyone trying to move up, and bouncing between sales ops and marketing or product marketing, product management, say I've got that, and have the kind of interpersonal skills to go figure it out.
Yeah.
I know it's easier said than done, but if you're the kind of person that lets something bounce back and forth, you're not the COO. But if you're the kind of person that takes that, figures it out, and comes back and delivers a solution, you're the COO.
Totally. Yeah. So that's less about what skills you want to take on, and it's more about your innate behavior.
Your interpersonal skills,
how you execute.
Totally.
Yeah, Dheeraj.
Yeah, I use the 3 words. I mean, I think any entity, any company, any construct, if you look at a line, and you say, well, the line is going to have this highs and lows and highs and lows. So obviously, companies go through that, products go through that, people, careers go through that. Yeah. Question is, how do you look at the line? So the line is not this way, and it's not plateaued, but the line is going this way. And I guess the most basic thing is, how do you not be extremely elated and extremely disappointed, because it's going to happen in any function whatsoever, right? But then, how do you really measure this, and what are the ways? And I look at 3 A's. These 3 A's are important to our engineers, our product managers, or everybody. And one of the things I say is ambition. You need to have ambition. And ambition for sales ops would be, I'm going to bring insights like it's going to pop up people's eyes.
Yeah.
That's ambition,
right.
From that point of view, because now it's way deeper than what maybe McKinsey would actually give you in terms of insights. Mm-hmm. Deep stuff that really goes, and FP&As and C-level people, board-level people take note, like, wow, this was insightful, right? That's ambition. Yeah. The other one is attention to detail. That's another A actually, and it's just authentic relationships. I think understanding that whatever you've done, you do it one more time to make sure that it actually looks good. And the third one is, anti-fragility, that, you go through shocks. You would have forecasted something that was just wrong this last quarter. How do you learn and become better? Because, and the word anti-fragile is true for companies and people and products and everything, actually, How can you learn from failures and say, what, I'm not just going to recover and get back to where I was. Can I be better than what I was, and so on?
Yeah, it's interesting. All the themes that come across from these big brands on stage here is that it's not about the title that you're looking to achieve. It's just about just as long as your growth is continuing upward.
Yeah.
And the mindset is less about wanting the role and more about what do you personally want to achieve and drive for the company.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, great. Let's open it up to the audience. Questions?
As CEOs, I know that you're very busy people and have plenty of requests to either present or speak. So I'm interested in what the compelling reason was for you gentlemen to be here today and take your time here today.
Personally, I really want Clari to succeed, because we were an early customer of Clari. 2-3 years ago, when they were going through their initial rounds of funding, Bain actually called me, Ajay Agrawal called me, and I talked to him about the systems of record, the systems of engagement. And now there's systems of intelligence, which is the third thing that's emerging now. Because, you can make humans engage with systems, that's awesome, because systems of record are things that are boring. It's like, well, I just have to do it because it's dark data, it's SEC, it's FINRA, I'm forced to being done because auditors want this to be done. People hate that stuff now. The systems of engagement, I think Clari started to be a system of engagement for us, because salespeople are now like, while I'm on the move, can I just do this quickly and move on? So it reduces friction in terms of data entry, and there's all this role-based access control. So the basics of engagement were there, but now the question is, can it be a system of intelligence, which is the machine speaks back to you? That's a hard problem. It's easier said than done. It's going to be a challenge for Clari, and I throw this gauntlet in front of them to say that when you start being a system of engagement, you can become a cute app, and no more than a cute app. But if the app and the machine behind it, the engine behind it, if it continues to think about it's not good enough, it's not good enough, it's not good enough, it will become a system of intelligence, actually. So I'd love for this company to become really huge over time. And
you can see how much Dheeraj pushes us on the product side.
yeah.
Eric, your thoughts?
It's pretty simple. I love Andy, that's why I'm here. So, seriously, the reason very simple. 1 year ago, right? Every morning I spend almost 1 hour with our sales team, Greg, a lot of other team members about that. Until we found the Clari is great. I still spend like 15 minutes, 1 hour to 15 minutes. However, I still had a problem because every time I look at my Clari mobile app, whenever I have a question, I still need to call our sales guy, right? Sales or Greg Hope, who is our head of the sales. I look at the data, I have a question, and a question and the data. It's really complex. I would say it's not a frictionless experience. And then I called Andy. We had a lunch together. I said, Andy, can you please do me a favor to integrate with the Zoom? And whenever I have questions, I just literally one click and talk with our head of sales or sales ops. See also, the other side also can see my mobile screen. And then we can talk, we can look at the data. After launch, just several weeks later, Andy mentioned my prototype is done. I was like, wow, it's awesome, I love you. That's why I'm here.
That's
he
awesome.
Love me, he loves the engineering team. Let's get that straight. Nick?
Well, I think it's going to continue the theme. I worked with Andy and Venkat and Kurt and a lot of other people in a previous life, working on much more boring stuff, I think you'd both admit, right? And just saw what you guys did, and I have so much confidence what you're going to do here. We're actually a relatively recent Clari customer, but I was getting my first CEO demo, just blown away. And actually, your forecasts historically were more right than my forecasts. So
that's good to hear.
Yeah,
That's good to hear.
I was like, this looks good.
I have a funny story on this too. So Nick is, yes, we know each other, but I'll have you know that, and I don't know if Jason Plank is in the room with the sales rep, this is one of the hardest deals we've ever had to close, was this one. I thought it was going to be easy.
Nick is above the fray.
I empower the team.
That's right. Okay, other questions from the audience? Yes.
Hello. Yeah.
Thank
Chris DeViller from Atlassian. I head up sales strategy and operations. So, question for you: how do you balance Salesforce happiness with holding them accountable? Because I feel more closely with the benevolent dictatorship. That feels closer to what I need to do on a daily basis than keeping people happy all the time. How do you balance that?
I think it's ultimately, that's a good question. It's very hard to measure. But however, we did so many things, right? So in terms of balance that, and overall, we look at this is kind of what we're doing internally, right? Make sure the sales team happy or happiness. But the way to measure that, look at our, from customer side. Every day we get a feedback from customer, and of course, customer always send out a feedback. Almost every customer, whenever they deal with our sales rep, if our sales guys really care about the customer, almost every time the customer send us a feedback. I think we just based on the feedback. Sometimes we did get a negative feedback because this newly hired rep, they really did not do well. And I do not think there's a way to measure that internally, but normally we look at it from like an NPS score, our customer feedback, and overall those kind of things, to help us to balance that. So.
Okay. Yes, over here.
Munish Gandhi, I'm with the LinkedIn Sales Navigator team. So the question is, as you have grown your companies, I'm sure there were many growth pivots which did not pan out as you anticipated. So who do you look for when your sales strategy is not working as planned? And what do you expect the sales ops person to do versus finance versus head of sales or marketing? How do you kind of figure that out?
It's a theoretical question because we obviously never had any problems. So I'll pass it to the other. No, just kidding. Craig, it's funny because that's a really, really good question and goes back to the COO one in my opinion.
Yeah.
When you're, having trouble, missing a quarter, or something's below plan, who steps up and does the meta analysis? And I think it's very situational. Like I have a great head of marketing, head of sales ops, head of sales, and who's done that analysis? It's varied over time. I would say my head of revenue ops, who's I mentioned a few times, he's done a great job of jumping in and saying, okay, here's what I think the bigger picture problem is, whether it's pipeline or close rates or segments or whatever. I don't think it's like, I think that job is open to anyone, and you'll really stand out if you do.
I think, it has to come from a team of people, because everybody in product management adds color on product segmentation, and what products launch that probably cannibalize some business. All those things are, so you can't just have one. Obviously, FP&A comes with productivity, like, well, this is what we think it looks like. Sales ops comes from pipeline point of view, and how is marketing actually helping with that? And of course, historical data. So I think there's 3 or 4 teams that actually have to come together and even crowdsource some of this stuff, as opposed to one person knows everything about what the business looks like. Because it's when you're at a certain scale, it's beyond just a certain one facet or something.
I think, so just briefly, the way I look at this, I would say is ultimately that's a CEO's responsibility. If you miss the quarter, that's why I do not want to hire COO, right? You cannot blame CEO. Just your job, right? It's because you have a Clari every morning. You look at how healthy your pipeline. If you know you're going to miss the quarter, you need to take some actions now. You cannot blame like chief revenue officer or sales or any others. It's your responsibility. As long as you miss a quarter, the CEO should take a full responsibility.
Let me just close by saying this. I am thinking as I walk away from the stage that if you haven't talked to your CEO, you should. You should get in a meeting, ask these questions of your own CEO, understand all of the insights that they want, understand the possible career path that's in front of you. And then hopefully the other thing you took away from this meeting here, this session, is the incredible thinkers that we have on the stage. I'm just so impressed with how you think beyond just the blocking and tackling and think more at a larger scale. And I think the audience, I know myself, I've just benefited from just, the 45 minutes together. I've learned a ton, and just thank you very much.
A pleasure.
Thank you, Andy.